Hi, I'm Asatsu5, and this is my video review over the Cold Steel Rebel training knives. Now, I'm not going to get too big into the actual specs on these training knives. One, because you're not going to be carrying them with you on a daily basis, so weight isn't going to be that big of a deal, except when it comes to how realistic the knife is. But you know, and two, well, that's pretty much it. You're not going to be carrying these knives with you, so to me it's not that important. It's more important is about how well do these knives perform as a training tool, how realistic they are, and how well they work overall. That's what I'm going to be talking about. But for those of you who do like specs, these are Rebel knives. They're made out of a material called Santoprene, which is a type of rubber. The blade length on these knives, the Tanos or the Recon, these are based on the Recon Tanos. They're 7 inches, while this is the Military Classic, is 6 3/4 inches. So that gives you your blade length, and that also helps you out with what is going to be your reach with your knife. They have other models. They have the Black Belt Classic. They have the Peacekeeper, which the Peacekeeper is more like a dagger, and it's a little bit smaller. But I'm willing to say that especially these Tanos, which are my personal favorite, are very representative of a wide range of tactical fixed blades that you might use in a self-defense situation, and is also good practice just for any knife self-defense, even though you might be using a folder that might be 3 inches. These I'm very comfortable with using with my sparring partners, even though I told you these are made out of that Santoprene. They will bend and flex, but they are stiff. And the Military Classic is pretty bad about warping. When you're doing thrust attacks. Yes, that is from a thrust attack on one of our sparring partners or myself. But it's pretty bad about when it is warped. It will kind of stay warped for a while, and you can see that it's bent. But you can straighten them up, and it's not going to really affect its overall performance. Tanos, on the other hand, a little bit thicker. It's slightly bent, but it flexes back pretty easily. You can hear that they do hit pretty hard. You will feel it when you're practicing. I always recommend wearing safety glasses or safety goggles to protect your eyes. And you see in my sparring videos I've made that we wear a lot of head protection, helmets. We have the chest gear. We have the forearm protection. We have gloves, and that is really because of these knives. We also will straight up spar in a kumite, which a kumite is a practice fighting match. And the basic rules to a kumite, I mean, they get a little bit more complex than this, but if I'm going to explain it to you, just for the general sake of keeping the video short, a kumite is a practice sparring match where you can kick to the head and torso, but you can't punch to the head. Punching to the head's illegal. And when I spar with my buddies, I don't kick to the head because it's kind of unfair. You know, a lot of my buddies don't have a you know, kicking martial arts background. A lot of them are wrestlers, or they might have taken boxing, but they don't really know much about kicking, and they don't quite know what to expect if they get kicked in the head. And just for the general rule of keeping my sparring partners safe and happy, I don't kick them in the head. But we do wear sparring gear, and that's because of these Rebel knives. You can hear that when these hit, these are fairly hard, even though they are flexible, and they will bend. And they won't cause serious injury unless you just jab it in someone's eye socket. But before we got the sparring gear, me and my brother and my friends would spar, and the next morning we'll feel like we got ran over by a bus. I mean, we'll have bruises all over our chest, our abdomen, our legs, our neck, our forearms, you know, our knuckles and fingers will be black and blue, and that looked like we got into a real fight. And we'll be pretty sore the next morning, and the sparring gear has really helped with that. Now, you might be saying to yourself, well, if you're going through that much pain practicing with these, why do you practice with these particular Rebel knives, training knives? And there's a very logical explanation for that. When I attack my opponent with these sparring knives, whether it be a slash or a jab or stab, my partners feel it. And since we're not practicing with real knives, we're not going to bleed out, and it's a good way to know, hey, I've been hit. Now, if I barely nick them, you know, my sparring partners are pretty realistic. They know if it's just a nick, they can continue the fight. But if we go in there and we start jabbing this into the axillary, or we slice the femoral artery, or the carotid artery, they know that the fight's pretty much over. And you know, they're smart like that. But you know, a lot of times your adrenaline's up, and with what I call a more flexible sparring knife or training knife, one that is a little bit easier to bend, you might not feel it when the adrenaline's up. And that is especially true when you're in a real knife fight, which I hope never happens to me, my friends, or any of you. That's probably the worst scenario you can get in, is a knife-on-knife fight. But most likely in that situation, you're not going to feel yourself getting stabbed until you start losing blood. But the initial stabbing you most likely won't feel. But with these formal knives, you jab it into someone, of course it's going to flex, you know, especially on a human body, which is kind of soft by nature. Even if you have a lot of muscles, it's going to find a soft spot, and it's going to bend a little bit more than it will on this wood. But you'll feel it. And for the most part, even with the sparring gear, you will be able to hear it or feel it. But it won't. But just with the sparring gear, you won't wake up the next morning all bruised up and sore. Now, with these cold steel training knives, something that when we train with them, something that me and my brother will always do is we always have at least a third man out that's not in the match that's refereeing. Because even though these are hard, you know, when the adrenaline gets up, you might not feel it. And we, you know, just for the sake of trying to keep things as realistic as possible, we have a referee just to say, hey, you know, he cut your femoral artery. Hey, he cut your he cut this tendon. That means in real life you want to be able to walk anymore. Keep that in mind, you know. And you don't hear this in our sparring videos, because I always, you know, mash it up and make a bunch of, you know, music, and I take the highlights of all matches. but we're constantly coaching each other, and along with joking with each other, you know how that goes. But we're constantly coaching and trying to improve each other's technique. Now, you see in our sparring videos that we'll do the knife on knife thing, and it's kind of like it kind of looks like we're just kind of trying to dodge the other person's knife and tag them with our other one until we can get in close and finish them off. I like to go ahead and say, with our knife on knife sparring practice, although it is extremely fun, me and my brother both agree that that isn't the most realistic situation that we're practicing. Just because, one thing, in a fight there's no rules, and two, in a self-defense encounter, you're most likely not going to be squaring up against each other, saying, "Alright, go," and then y'all going to fight it out until someone can't fight anymore. Most of the time in self-defense situations, you never square up, and you never match up with someone in your weight class or anything like that. It just don't happen. You're usually taken by surprise, or you're cornered up. And when me and my brother are explaining what's going on in our sparring matches with these knives, we often describe it kind of like kendo. Now, for those who don't know what kendo is, that's the Japanese martial arts / sport. Well, it's sword fighting with the bamboo swords called shinais, but it's not necessarily realistic to the samurai Japanese sword arts, where you're actually trying to kill someone. It's not based on traditional samurai martial arts. I mean, it's based on it, but it's not historically correct as far as technique and what a samurai would do in battle or in a duel. And one of the major goals of kendo is reflex training. Someone attacks, and then you try to get around their attack and attack them. And that's more or less what we're doing in all training when we do knife on knife. It's just sharpening our reflexes and our reaction time. Now, we'll also practice disarming, and what my brother really enjoys, especially because he's a lot better at it than I am, is disarming. We'll have one guy who's unarmed, and then we'll have another guy with a rubber knife, and the guy with the knife will attack and try to kill the unarmed guy, and then the unarmed guy, who usually is my brother because he just loves this, but everybody does it, he will try to disarm the attacker's knife and take it away from him, and then use that knife against him, which me and my brother both agree is a very good and realistic practice. Again, I hope that never comes in handy. I hope we never have to use it, but it's good stuff to know. And we both practice disarming and all that stuff, and sometimes we'll have two unarmed people against one armed person, and the two unarmed people will try to disarm the one armed person, and then take his knife away and finish him off. And the armed person with the rubber knife will try to defend himself against the two attacking unarmed people. And we also consider that pretty realistic. But for the most part, I'm very happy with these training knives. They are flexible, but they're not so flexible that you don't feel them. When you get hit with them, for the most part, you will know it. And like I said, always wear goggles or safety glasses. If you have other protection gear like a helmet, a foam helmet, forearm guards, leg guards, chest protection, it'll help, but it'll kind of dull your sensitivity to if you're getting hit or not. which can be both realistic and unrealistic, but you will feel better in the morning. And I hope you enjoyed this review. This is the Cold Steel training knives. I strongly recommend the Recon Tano model. Is my personal favorite out of the two models that we use. We have three of them. We have the Cold Steel Recon Tano model, and then we have the Military Classic. To me, the Tano is just a little bit more durable, a little bit stiffer, and it retains its shape a little bit better. As you can see, this Classic, this Military Classic, is warped. It's a little bit thinner. It does have the guards on it, you know, the more traditional T-shaped guards or quillions. So if you wanted to try to practice catching like that, which I would never rely on that in a real self-defense match, but you know, if you wanted to use that as a practice training tool, this one would be better off. This one doesn't really have the guard on it, but for the most part I recommend the Tano model because it holds up better. You know, after a few matches with this one would be like completely bent like this, and would have to straighten it out. And you can see that, you know, still warped. For the most part, I'm not saying that this one's bad or anything. I just prefer the Recon Tano model. I hope you enjoyed this review. Hope you learned something from it. If you're going to spar, just make sure safety first. Don't break your sparring partners, or you won't have any partners to spar with. And I'm a Satsu 5. I am out.